Welcome to this video on copyright and fair use, an introduction for teachers. The video provides an overview of key concepts, but is not intended as legal advice. So, what exactly is copyright? Copyright refers to certain legal protections given to original works. Copyright law is intended to promote innovation and progress in the arts and sciences by providing authors and inventors with rights to their creations for a certain period of time. Copyrighted materials are original works of authorship fixed in any tangible medium of expression, such as writing, art, photography, music, video, and so on. The act of creating an original work gives it copyright protection. The copyright does not have to be registered for the work to be protected under copyright law. Copyright protection extends for many years, but eventually expires. At that time, a work enters the public domain. Copyright law grants copyright holders certain exclusive rights. These rights include the right to reproduce or copy the original work, the right to create derivative works, the right to sell or distribute the work, and the right to perform or display the work in public. While you and your students have access to a huge trove of text, images, music, and videos on the Internet, always assume anything you find on the Internet is copyrighted. Copyright law protects the rights of authors, but it also has special allowances or exceptions that can benefit educators. One important exception is materials in the public domain, which are free to use. Copyright protections have expired on materials created prior to 1925, such as the novel The Great Gatsby. Works produced by the U.S. government are also in the public domain, so you may use NASA Hubble telescope photos without permission. Copyright law also permits teachers to perform or display a legally acquired copyrighted work as part of learning activities in the classroom at a nonprofit educational institution. The Technology, Education, and Copyright Harmonization, or TEACH Act of 2002, extended this exemption to teaching at a distance, but with limitations and certain institutional requirements. Fair use is another important exception. Fair use permits some uses of copyrighted materials without permission for things such as criticism, news reporting, research, scholarship, and teaching. Fair use gives teachers and students the ability to make some use of copyrighted materials as part of the teaching and learning process. 4 factors are considered to determine whether a use is considered fair use. These 4 factors are weighed on a case-by-case basis. They are the purpose and character of the use, the nature of the original copyrighted material, the amount used in relation to the whole work, and the effect of the use on the potential market for the copyrighted work. In weighing these factors, a use is more likely to be considered fair use if the purpose and character of the use is transformative, adds value, or otherwise changes the original in some way. It is more likely to be considered fair use if the original work is published rather than unpublished, and it is a factual rather than fictional work. It is more likely to be considered fair use if only small amounts, not core to the original, are used. Finally, a use is more likely to be considered fair use if it does not negatively affect the market for sales of the original. There is no magic formula for determining whether a use is fair use, but you should consider these 4 factors anytime you think about using copyrighted materials. There are several things you can do to avoid issues with copyright when you and your students use materials in the classroom. If you are unsure whether a use qualifies as fair use, you can always contact the author to ask permission. Authors often grant permission for educational uses. You can also make use of materials that are in the public domain or licensed through Creative Commons. Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization devoted to expanding educational access to materials, and many authors now license their materials through Creative Commons. Different levels of permissions are provided, but all allow for non-commercial uses, and many only require attribution of the author. Search engines like Google Images and Bing now allow you to filter by Creative Commons license. In addition, many websites now offer freely usable materials. If you or your students need images for a class project, you can use sites such as photosforclass.com or picsforlearning.com, which were designed for educational use, or sites such as openclipart.org, which has public domain clip art, or general image sites such as Pixabay, Pexels, and Unsplash, which have photos and other images you can download and use free of charge. That concludes this video on copyright and fair use. For more information, check out the links to additional available resources.